Welcome to the Short Term Show, the show about short-term rentals and long-term wealth, with real property owners hosting real properties who are crushing it in the vacation and short-term rental space. And here's your host, Avery Carl.
This episode of the Short Term Show is brought to you by the Short Term Shop. 30-year fixed mortgages, tax benefits, and long-distance management training made easy are just a few of the perks of owning a short-term rental. The Short Term Shop can help you buy and learn how to manage your property from anywhere in the world. Just go to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected. Again, that's theshorttermshop.com, and we are brokered by EXP. See y'all over there. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Show. Today, I have on the founders of a really cool company that I just became aware of over the course of the past few months. They're doing some really cool stuff in the financing space. The company is called Nectar. And I have Derrick Barker and Brittany Mosely here. Guys, you want to introduce yourselves really quick and tell us a little bit about what Nectar is?
Yeah, I can take it away. So, hey everybody, I'm Brittany. So I'm from Shaker Heights, Ohio, which is just outside of Cleveland, and went to Harvard, which is actually where Derrick and I first met. And after graduating, I moved back to Ohio, which I never thought I would do. And I started running a corporate retail business at Abercrombie and Fitch. So I worked my way up to running $120 million tops business. Had an amazing experience there, decided to leave in 2016, came to Atlanta, decided to join forces with Derrick, and I came in and sort of took over all of what we call our smaller projects. So that was anything that was 50 units and under. So single family, multifamily, co-living, short-term rental, all that good stuff. Built out our entire short-term rental portfolio. So went from 0 to about 125 units in a year and a half, 2 years, which was really cool and awesome and daunting and a lot of hard work. And from there, I think, in 2020, 2021, once the pandemic hit, is where we started selling a majority of our portfolio. And we used that capital from selling most of our portfolio to building what now is today Nectar. So Derrick, do you want to go? And then we can kind of jump into what Nectar actually does.
Oh yeah, and I have all kinds of questions. So go ahead, Derrick.
All right. The short version is I have a background also similar entrepreneurship and finance, but my passion was flipping apartment complexes. That's what I did. I left. I was a trader at Goldman Sachs right after college. But while I was at Harvard, I started investing in real estate. Had about 500 units in 2013, really buying, renovating, and flipping old beat up apartments. And Brittany kept using the word we for short-term rentals. Really, she built our short-term rental business within our apartment complex business. And that's what we did before Nectar. And we started Nectar because ultimately running and building a real estate portfolio takes a lot of cash. It just does. It's capital.
Indeed.
And we always thought, well, once it got bigger, then we'd have more capital. But it turns out once you get bigger, you need way more capital. And so we find ourselves having a cash flowing real estate portfolio, but still needing to come up with big lump sums of money. And there was nobody who was going to lend on that cash flow, right? We had mortgages. We still had cash flow. No one's going to lend on the cash flow. And so we started Nectar to do that, to find the awesome real estate entrepreneurs out there that are owning and managing short-term rentals, long-term rentals, any real estate really, but focus on short-term rentals because they make a ton of cash flow, and give them fast, flexible capital so that they can deal with all of the big capital needs that come with the real estate portfolio, including buying other properties and growing. So that's short version.
Okay, I have a whole lot of questions, but let's back up to the beginning and start with your real estate portfolio. So what did that look like before you guys started selling off? And so you were, to get to those 125 short-term rental units, you were converting some units of the apartment buildings into short terms. Am I reading that?
Yeah, so that, 100%. So that's the way that we started. There was starting to be like a lot of buzz around short-term rentals. We are always like looking for additional ways to generate cash flow. And we were like, we should just try this. Like, everybody's talking about short-term rentals. What's a really easy way for us to get into it? And we're like, well, why don't we just leverage some of our apartment units and see if it even works for us before we invest a ton of money into like an actual home. And so we started doing it in a couple of our apartment units, and we were making like 3x what we were getting in rent. And we were like, this is crazy. Like, this is amazing. So then from there, we continued to expand into more of our apartment complexes, but then we also started buying some like single family homes and even like some smaller multifamily. So like duplexes, triplexes, quads, and converting them to short-term rentals. So that's kind of how we ended up building out our whole portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And is this all in the Atlanta area or is this all over?
So our short-term rental portfolio was all in Atlanta. Like our larger portfolio, though, has been spread throughout like the Southeast and LA.
Yeah, we had a couple of short-term rentals in LA, but it didn't go as well.
That's true. You're right.
Yeah, and
I have blocked that off.
Yeah, nothing is LA. They just had regulations, and we were just not trying to do it's like, this is too much.
You don't want to mess with it. Yeah, I get it. I don't like messing with markets that have a lot of regulation myself. So totally get it. You don't have to explain that. Okay, so you got a lot of short-term rentals, a lot of different places. What made you guys decide to start selling off during the pandemic? Because a lot of people started buying a lot during the pandemic. So what prompted that? Or did you know you wanted to start Nectar, or how, like, what came first, I guess? The idea to start Nectar and then you sold off, or you sold off and then you have all this capital and you're like, what do I do with this?
If I'm going to go, we might have slightly different reasons. If I'm going to go, I think the idea for Nectar came first before selling. It was kind of at the same time because we were trying to buy properties. And I remember explicitly, we were buying a 77 unit property in Koreatown in LA. It was a great deal that we had at a great price, and we had everything all lined up. We had the capital, we had the debt, and then the lender pulled back last minute. Our deposit was already non-refundable. We already had our earnest money had already gone hard, and the lender was like, "Sorry, we can't do what we said because of COVID." All right, this is like March 2020.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we were like, but what? It's like, we got to come up all this money. At the same time, we have this real estate portfolio. And that's when, like, to me, that's when the idea came about for Nectar. And then it just kept turning over and over in my head, like this idea. I just couldn't get it out of my head. Brittany, on the other hand, she was like, well, we have bills to pay. So she was still running the business. But I was like, no, we have to do this. And then, it was just, I thought it was a better idea and ultimately a way that we can solve a real problem that's really there for a lot of people, that was just bigger and more scalable than, real estate. We've been doing real estate for a long time. We had a over 4,000 unit portfolio. We've been, and it was time to do something new and exciting. And we just couldn't do it both. It was just too much work to do everything at once.
Yeah. And I would say for me, like, I think it happened at the same time as we were selling some of our projects. Like, for me, like, the first project that I had really, like, the first multifamily project that I had worked on from like start to finish. And I had done everything, like construction management, like lining up the property manager, asset management. I was at the property all the time, like making sure everything was running smoothly, investor reporting, et cetera. It's like I was literally on the front lines. And we decided to sell the property, and the amount that we got as like the GP versus the amount that like our LP investors got, I was like, this is crazy. Now, granted, they did put in most of the money, but like we were literally the ones doing all of the work. And I just felt like there had to be a better way for real estate investors to grow and scale their businesses and to be able to keep ownership. And so for me, like, that's kind of when like the light went off, like, we have to build this company that's going to allow people to grow and scale their portfolio, but not have to give up all of the upside.
All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about, you've kind of touched on that. Okay, it costs a lot of money. You need a lot of capital to buy real estate, to rehab real estate, to do a lot of things. Basically anything in real estate takes money. So you kind of decided, well, maybe we're going to start being sort of a private lender. What would you categorize Nectar? Because it's not a regular lender or mortgage broker. It's more of like a private lending. You guys tell me.
Yeah, we call it cash flow based financing because we're not looking at the asset price. Asset price can go up or down. It's probably down in this environment right now. But if it goes down, you don't have to worry about us calling for additional collateral. And if it goes up, you don't have to worry about us taking, a bigger share, like if we were equity. So it's really just cash flow based financing where you look at your cash flow and we'll give you financing based on that. Yeah.
So what are some common reasons that an investor might come to you guys for financing? So you're giving capital based on the cash flow of a property. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. Why don't I talk about just explain it a little bit more?
Yeah, let's go in depth. Yeah, let's dive deep. Go for it.
Brittany, you can give some examples of some actual customers and what they use it for to add color. So we're going to look at your net cash flow. That means your P&L, we're going to look at your past, ideally 24 months, but at a minimum 12 months of income statements, including your debt service. So we're going to subtract your revenue minus expenses minus debt service and look at what is the true cash flow. Now we'll take out any capital expenditures if you're doing debt renovations. We'll take out any down payment, any one-time expenses. So we get truly what are your operating margins? How much money are you making from operating perspective? And then if you're making, say, for easy numbers, $100,000 a year out of the cash flow from your property, then we'll typically be able to get you between, let's say, $150,000 and $200,000 today. And you pay us back over a 1 to 5 year term. So that's kind of how it works. There's no balloon payment. So you're paying us equal monthly payments. Or if you like, you can pay us more in high seasons and less in down seasons if you have a really cyclical property. And we get paid back in these monthly payments. So there's no big balloon payment. And the cost of capital is and so you can keep your mortgage, right? So we're not interfering with your mortgage. We're more expensive than a mortgage. So you should get a mortgage. But then for any capital needs above that, we come in and we'll provide financing, and our rates are going to be anywhere from, say, it used to be 10 to 14%. Now in this rate environment, we've had to push that up to 12, 18 because it's just more expensive rate environment now. But that way you can use us instead of equity for down payments, for renovations, for furnishing, for buying a property management company, for buying a boat. You can use us for anything that's just more flexible than a lender. Yeah.
Okay. So I would imagine you guys get a lot of people who come to you to get financing for furniture, because I think that's the most common and biggest expense of all short-term rentals, unless they come furnished. Either furniture or rehabs would be my guess that is most common that people come to you guys for.
Yeah, I would say for us so far, it's really been renovations, by far and large. We've done multiple deals with one of the largest operators in Jacksonville Beach. And we've done, I don't know, probably 8 deals with them. And each time they're coming in and getting additional capital to do renovations. So they're upgrading. They have a mix of both short-term and long-term, but they're constantly upgrading their units. They want to make sure that they're unique and, are the best on the market. And we're able to get them that money fast, typically within. And the initial deal took about 6 days, but now that they're in our system and we built a rapport, when they come in for cash, we can usually get it to them in 24 hours. So I think that people like the fact that, we're flexible and we're fast, and we just truly understand this industry so well because we've lived it for so many years, that they're just a lot less hoops to jump through.
Yeah. Another example is a guy in Augusta, smaller property. So the large operator in Jacksonville Beach has maybe over 70, near 100 units. but there's a smaller operator. He has 6 properties in Augusta, Georgia. Some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Augusta, you're right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but and yeah, some of them. And before that, he was an arbitrager. He was an arbitrager. Then he started managing, and he had bought a couple of properties. And we looked at his whole business, his arbitrage business, his management business, and his ownership business. They were priced differently, but we gave him, hey, this is a blended $100,000 based off of the entirety of your business. And he used it for 2 down payments. He used it to furnish to finish furnishing one property, and then for 2 down payments, bought another 2 units with that money. So people use this, for various different things. And then he introduced us to a bunch of his friends and done deals with them too.
Nice. So let's talk about the terms. So if I come to you guys, or actually back up, we're going to start earlier in the process. If I come to you guys and I want to get a loan, let's say to do a rehab on a property that I already own, but I just don't have the cash to necessarily do that rehab right now. So what are you guys looking at? I know you guys are looking at your P&L and what the cash flow is. What else are you looking at in terms of what you need to approve me? Are you looking at my credit score, any of my other income, any of my debt to income ratio, anything like that?
So we do a soft credit pull. It's not a hard credit pull, so it won't have any impact on your credit. We are going to look at the LTV of your portfolio. So the max LTV that you can have is 75%. We ideally want you to have 3 years of rental experience. So not necessarily 3 years of experience like the specific property that you're operating right now, but just 3 years of I know what I'm doing here. I'm not just jumping in for the very first time. And we will work with people, and we have people within our portfolio that do have less than 3 years. But typically, if you're less than 3 years, the cost of capital will be higher. And then we like to see you have both a business entity and a business bank account.
Okay. That makes sense. So you are checking credit score, but everything else is just based off the cash flow. Is that right?
Yeah. Your
experience. Okay. And experience. Yeah.
Okay. Really, the credit check is just to, if we look and see that you don't pay bills often,
right?
That makes a difference. But other than that, that's not what we're using to size or price the advance. We're looking at what is your cash flow, and are you in this environment? The thing that'll really hurt people is leverage. Are you over leveraged?
Right.
If you're at 85% leverage across your portfolio, and there's a blip in the economy, well, then you can get underwater. So those are the things that we're using to size. We don't want to get you over levered, and we want to make sure you're making the cash flow that can pay us back. That's really what we're mostly looking at.
Okay. And so these are typically going to be, these are short-term loans. So this wouldn't be, you would, like you said, go get a mortgage to actually buy a house rather than use you guys' capital, or, use your capital for the down payment or to pay cash for the house and finance it out later to a more favorable interest rate type of loan, a more long-term loan. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content of our podcast, but you have additional short-term rental questions, we host a weekly live question session that you guys can join for free. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. And if you head over to strquestions.com, you can sign up. So not only am I the host of this show, but I also own and manage my own properties, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about short-term rental investing. So please join us anytime for a free weekly live Q&A on Zoom. Sign up at strquestions.com. Let's talk about the terms. So I think it's really cool that you guys have the thoughtfulness to see that a lot of short-term rentals can be seasonal, and to kind of change the payments based on seasonality. I think that's really smart. I think that, do people take advantage of that?
It's something that we've done more recently.
Okay.
So we've had people take advantage. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. That was one thing that I wanted to hit on. So in terms of the terms now, so we know kind of what you guys are looking at when you're approving these loans. So what do the terms typically look like? And I know interest rates can be variable based on a number of factors, but typically what are you seeing for the terms? Let's say I want to come to you guys for $100,000 to do a rehab. let's use that as an example. And say I have, $100,000 in cash flow from my properties and I meet the experience criteria.
I'd say that experience is important. So if you have like 18 months of experience, it really doesn't matter how, it doesn't you're going to have to be in our more expensive capital bucket just based on our own financing. Our investors, they care a lot about experience because you learn so much in that first year. So that'll put you in the higher end of that, say 12 to 18% spectrum. So if you have a lot of experience, you're making $100,000 in cash flow a year, and you want $100,000, that's something that you're going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 year term. And that's going to determine how much you pay monthly, because ultimately if it's 5 years, you're going to pay back over a longer time. So it's a much lower per month payment. It's a higher overall fee because you're stretching it out longer, but it'll be a lower payment. I'd have to give me 1 second. I can give you exact numbers.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Because I think that listeners are going to be really interested in hearing okay, how do I apply this to myself? How, I've got a rehab that I want to do, or I need to refurnish this entire property, or, maybe I want to go buy another one. And guys, while we are talking about using a loan from Nectar for a down payment, there are certain types of loans where you might need to show this money sitting in your account for a seasoning period. Do you guys want to speak to that while he's looking up exact numbers? Unless you have them already, we can get to that in a minute.
I do have them, but we can talk about that also.
Okay.
We can talk about the seasoning a little bit. That's where our pref equity product comes into play. And with that, we have a membership interest in the entity, in your company.
Oh, okay.
And because of that, the lenders see us as equity and not a loan. But so it doesn't have to season. They'll look back at our bank account and see if it's seasoned in our bank account, and it's seasoned. However, you buy us out when you make payments. So we don't get upside. You still have 100% ownership, 100% upside. We just get the payment that you make every month. And when you make your last payment, our membership interest is terminated. We're completely bought out. We have no additional economics of the deal. You keep it. You keep all the upside. So effectively, you're getting to buy us out, without having to give up any equity. But the lender is going to treat us like equity because we have a membership stake. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So is that membership stake done with just a contract, or do we have to start a new LLC with you guys? How does that work?
Yeah, you have to start a new LLC with us or amend and restate your operating agreement.
Okay.
We have a standard agreement that we can just give. And if you have you can look at it, of course, if you have various different partners, we modify it to fit your specific situation. There's some specific terms. Specifically, the terms are how taxes are treated. But also it says this is what happens, if you don't default, if you default, you have this cure period. And if not, then this is the remedies. And at the end of the payments, we're bought out. Basically, those are the sections that, it's clearly just a document. So
right.
It's more detailed than that. But we have these sections in the operating agreement. It takes you can look at it. It's a small 5-7 page document. You can review it quickly. You amend it, restate it, same day, you can have it done.
Okay. So that's how kind of you guys are protected then with the collateral of, well, if you don't make the payments, I own this much of your house. That makes sense.
Yeah. And we don't, even if you don't make the set payments, we still don't own your house. If you don't make the payments, then we can force a sale of the house. And then you pay us back out of the sale proceeds. But you
okay.
Upside. We are not trying to take the upside of the property, of the work that you've done. Even in a default scenario, look, we were entrepreneurs. We're owners ourselves. We set this product up specifically to be friendly to the people that are out there making the stuff happen, and that's not us. We're here in an office. So even if you default, we can force a sale, and we can just say, hey, no, you have to sell, and you have to just do it via the document, or we can sell. But you still keep all the proceeds over and above the amount that you have to pay to us.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. It seems like a pretty good deal for everyone. I mean, it's the best deal is always like you pay back the debts that you owe and then we're all good. But I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. And to go back to the $100,000 example.
Yes, let's go to that. Let's hear some numbers.
Yeah. So here are the numbers. If you do a 1-year term, you're going to be paying back about $9,339 a month. So for 12 months, that means in total, you're paying $112,000 back. So we give you $100,000, you pay back $93.40 a month. You pay back, so that's $112,000. This is 12% annual financing fee, roughly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then let's say that you go out to 5 years. I'm not going to do, I do 1, 3, and 5. So let's actually say 3 years. So 3 years, we give you $100,000. Your monthly payment is $3,885 a month. So much lower payment.
Much more manageable, yeah.
Yeah, $3,800 as opposed to $9,300. But it's spread out over 3 years. So like that means you're paying a lower payment, but you're paying it back over 3 years. So that means that and that's a financing fee of about 13%. So that's like so you're paying a little bit more to be a 3-year. Now let's go out 5 years. So $100,000 now, go out 5 years. And let's say, just so you can get a flavor, that you're a little bit more risky. So you have for some reason, like, I don't know, let's say that the deal is a little bit more risky, just so you can see what this looks like. And the fee that is 15.7%. Then your monthly payments would be $2,975 over 5 years. If you $100,000 now, you pay $2,900 a month. This would be like a higher fee scenario. And that's kind of how it works. And typically the idea is if you're making $100,000 in cash flow a year, so that means in cash flow, you're making $9,000 or so a month. You're paying now $2,900 a month for a 5-year term. You get the $100,000, and hopefully you can use that $100,000 to buy a property, where if it's 10% cash to cash returns, or 20% cash to cash returns, you'll be able to be making 20% cash to cash returns. That's $20,000 per month. It's like $1,900. I mean, you're basically your net payment to us is going to be like really, really low. So that.
Okay, yeah. So this is a really, really cool product. Yeah, totally.
I could have brought up a spreadsheet, but I don't know if this is visual and audio.
It's mostly audio. We do post it on YouTube, but most people are going to be listening on audio. So that was perfect. So totally appreciate that. So what else? What else have we not hit on that are some benefits of Nectar or things that you guys can do?
Yeah. So I'd say, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but typically once you send all of your documents in to us, we can close on your first deal anywhere from 3 to 7 days. So our whole purpose is to be fast. And we also want to be flexible. So this kind of goes to your point earlier, Avery, where we were talking about the seasonal product that we are offering. And we really listen to our clients, and some of them are in a lot more seasonal locations. And so we've now built a payment structure around clients that are in seasonal destinations where they have amazing summers. And so their payments in the summers are a little bit higher, but in the winter, their payments go down. So we're really looking at how can we craft a, structure that really works for you. Additionally, we have some clients who are potentially using us for renovation capital, and they ask for a fee only period. So we will restructure and maybe say the first 1 or 2 months of your payments will be fee only. And so those payments are a lot smaller, and then the normal monthly payment will kick in on the 3rd month. So we really try to be flexible in that way based on whatever, your use case or your need is. We don't charge any sort of origination fees. There are no balloon payments at the end. So you are paying us back in equal monthly installments every single month for the term that you choose. So we will present multiple terms to you, and ultimately it's up to you as the client to determine what works best. So the shorter the term, the better the cost of capital, but the less money we're going to be able to get you up front. The longer the term, the more money we can get you, but the cost of capital will be more expensive just because we're giving you more money over a longer period of time. We don't take out, there's no lien on your actual property. We do file a UCC financing statement on your actual business entity. And that just kind of like lets the world know that we do have a right to a portion of the cash flow that you are generating every single month, but there's not like an actual lien or anything on your property. And then there's there's no impact to your personal credit, and there's no impact to your debt to income ratio. We kind of like are invisible and kind of sit in the background from that perspective.
I would say the only other thing I say is if we have two products, one is the cash advance product and one is the Nectar equity. With the equity product, there's no personal guarantee whatsoever. With the cash advance product, we don't have any stake in your property. We don't have a lien on your property. We're not attached to your property anyway, but we do have a personal guarantee to make sure you don't, go on a 5-year vacation to, I don't know, China or something. So like that's the only other, major difference there that I don't think we talked about.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a really great product. And sorry, I have to keep like muting and unmuting. It's storming here. So I'm trying to not have these huge thunder claps in the background because it's storming like right on top of me. So I think this sounds like a super cool product. So is there anything else before we move on to the final 3 questions of the show that you guys want to make sure all the listeners hear about? Or we cover everything?
No, just, I'd say the last thing is just like, if you're a real estate entrepreneur that has a cash flowing portfolio, we'd love to just be connected and get you a quote. We can get you a quote in 24 hours just so that you know what it looks like. What we're doing is different from a lot of capital providers out there, both lenders and equity. And we want to be a little bit better than both. So if you send it over, connect to our systems, we'll give you a quote. And once we do that, and once you get the documents, that you can just use that whenever. If anytime you have a need, you'll kind of know what things look like, and we'll be able to move much more quickly when you're ready.
Awesome. All right. So, are you guys ready for the final 3 questions?
We are ready. Let's do it.
Okay. So, first question: what advice would you give 20-year-old Derrick and Brittany if you know then what you know now?
Brittany, you want to go first? Ladies first.
Yes, I would say do not sell your real estate if you don't have to. I know that like in the beginning, we talked about how we sold so much of our portfolio. I mean, and not just in like 2020 and 2021, like over the years. And we still owned some, but like now we just are like looking, we see the market and we see how asset prices just continue to go up and up and up. And we're always like, oh man, like why did we ever sell that property? So that would be like what I would tell my younger self is like, hold on as long as you can.
I mean, that's a really good one. We'd be in a different position if we held on to everything. But it felt good at the time. We were making profits and it was like, oh, wow. But big checks back then, looking back at it, it's like, that wasn't big. We held based on what would have happened if we held. So yeah, I'd say like, that and, gut rehab, like if you can buy something and gut rehab it, it'll make it a lot easier. So you aren't fixing someone else's work 3 years after you buy what is quote unquote turnkey.
Yeah, turnkey is such a subjective word.
Yeah. Actually, I say find great partners and stay with them.
Okay. Good advice. All right. Second question, kind of similar to the first one. What advice would you give a new investor who's looking to get started today?
New investor trying to get started today, I'd say like get pre-qualified now, find out what you can afford, just get it done, and then just jump, take the leap, buy the property and commit to the journey. It's going to be hard. You might lose money. I've lost money in a bunch of deals that I did early on. But I got paid back in knowledge that's been many, many, many multiples that I've monetized many, many times over. So I was like, just figure out how to get in the game. Ideally, it's if you can get pre-qualified for a $200,000 mortgage and that's what it is, and you have to buy something and move in and house hack, whatever it is, just get in the game and stick to it and keep going.
Yeah. And I would also just say, just jump in. It can feel scary because maybe you don't know every single little thing, but to Derrick's point, you just learn so much by actually doing the thing and not just researching and thinking about the thing. So jump in, you're going to make mistakes and that's okay. You're going to use those learnings so that way your next project is better and the next one after that is better. So I would just say go all in.
Also, great advice. You really just the best time to buy real estate was always yesterday, but the second best time is today. So totally agree with that. Okay, last question. This one's a little more fun. What is your favorite book that has impacted your mindset?
So I have lots of favorite books, but one is Zealot. And this is it's a weird one for a business book. And I can say business books. So of course, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, they have great things. And also, Jeff Bezos has a biography. But Zealot is a secular story of Jesus Christ. And it's just really interesting, the story. This is one person who lived a long time ago who no one on the podcast and I don't know who that is. Whether you believe, whether you're a Christian or not, it's just crazy how this one person and the movement he started impacted the whole world. And it kind of made me believe that if that story is possible, anything is possible, even if some of the details we don't even have to agree to. The point that this one random dude from a nowhere town is someone that thousands and thousands of years later we all know and has impacted the world. That's pretty interesting.
No one has ever suggested that one, so that is very interesting. Brittany, what's your suggestion?
Let's see. I would say for me, probably one of the most recent books I read that really resonated with me would be Scaling Up. So, just the idea, and this is something I don't know, I've carried a motto that I've carried with me for a really long time, but that, teamwork makes the dream work. And when, we started our real estate development company, you work in a team, but in a very different way because you're managing a lot of different people, contractors, property managers, your investors. But with Nectar, we're building an actual company that has employees. And so I think it really taught me that teamwork does make the dream work, but only if you actually have the right people with the right attitude and the right skills in place. And when you're growing and scaling a business, it's really hard to do it by yourself because there are literally just not enough hours in the day to manage all of the things. So just surrounding yourself with the right people. And we've been very intentional about that here at Nectar. And we are just seeing the fruits of that labor as our team and our business continues to grow.
Awesome. Also a great recommendation. Love it. Well, so guys, I'm going to try and wrap this up pretty quick because I'm worried I'm going to lose power and cut it off on y'all. So if our listeners want to connect with you, find you, use Nectar, how can they do that?
Usenectar.com is a great way.
All right. Easy enough. Usenectar.com. Are you active on social media at all or mostly just website?
We're somewhat active on LinkedIn. Derrick's probably more active than me. But yeah, you can hit us up on LinkedIn. We'll definitely respond.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, usenectar.com, come to the website. And we absolutely love just getting on the phone and talking to amazing real estate investors like you guys, just to learn about your business and figure out what we can do to help you grow and scale.
Yeah. And I'd say two other things is one, I don't know when this goes out, but if you apply and get all your docs in before the end of the month, before the end of March, then you don't have to make any payments until May 21st. But that might be dated. But if you like come and apply and get all your documents in within 7 days, so you just get all your documents in within 7 days, they'll give you a $250 gift card, whether you take the money or not. So that's another. So that's another thing. Come through, use nectar.com. You put in your details. It should be pretty quick, and we can kind of go from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I think what you're doing is really, really cool. And I really like that it's tailored towards short-term rentals. So I'm a fan. I'm rooting for you. And let us know if there's anything we can do for you. And we'll catch you next time.
Awesome.
Thanks, Avery.
Yeah, great talking to you.